Now that the Senate has fulfilled its constitutional responsibility,
It was evil, it was corrupt, it was dirty cops.
bringing this process to a conclusion,
It was all bull.
I want to say again to the American people,
We went through hell unfairly, did nothing wrong,
how profoundly sorry I am for what I said and did to trigger these events.
I want to apologize to my family for having them have to go through a phony, rotten deal.
And the great burden they have imposed on the Congress and on the American people.
They took a phone call that was a totally appropriate call, and they brought me to the final stages of impeachment.
I also am humbled and very grateful
It's called total acquittal.
for the support and the prayers I have received from millions of Americans.
When she said, I pray for the president, I pray for the president, she doesn't pray. She may pray, but she prays for the opposite.
This can be, and this must be, a time of reconciliation
Adam Schiff is a vicious, horrible person.
and renewal for America.
Say hello to the people of Utah and tell them, I'm sorry about Mitt Romney.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
I believe any person who asks for forgiveness has to be prepared to give it.
So there we see Donald Trump painting William Jefferson Clinton in shades of humility, shades of dignity, and,
humanity.
well, shades of humanity. Looking presidential. It was a master class yesterday in the difference between humility and hubris.
It absolutely
between
was.
class and just someone who is classless. It was remarkable.
It was a remarkable day yesterday
It was
from
Donald
beginning
Trump.
to end.
Donald Trump put on a freak show yesterday and showed exactly why this race will always be close, even to the end. When things are going well, Donald Trump and his supporters and his family members are at their very worst.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe. We have finally gotten to Friday, February 7th. And along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have Donnie Deutsch with us, former Chief of Staff to the DCCC and former Director of Strategic Communications for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign, Adrian Elrod, and historian, author of The Soul of America, and Rogers Professor of the Presidency at Vanderbilt University, John Meacham. He's an NBC News and MSNBC contributor. Great to have you all on board this morning.
Willie, yesterday, the president he put on an absolute freak show inside the White House. He put on, actually, a blasphemous display inside the National Prayer Breakfast, actually mocking people who quoted the words of Jesus Christ. Mocking people there of faith who actually followed the orders of Jesus Christ in the Sermon on the Mount. It was quite a display by a president who actually somehow managed to stoop below the lowest of low.
Yeah, the victory tour yesterday after the acquittal included a day at the National Prayer Breakfast where he displayed again his complete lack of understanding of what it means to have faith. I know we'll play some of those clips and get into it later. But also the clips that we just played of him yesterday, I thought, Joe, was a perfect distillation of the Trump age in Washington, which is you had Donald Trump being who he is. We know who he is. But you also had in front of him his entire cabinet. You had the Attorney General sitting there laughing and smiling and applauding while Donald Trump was ripping the Russia investigation and ripping the Ukraine investigation and everything else. And then you had Republicans, congressional Republicans, clapping and laughing along and waiting for their names to be called, which sort of is the point of their jobs right now, is to say and do the thing that pleases the boss. And yesterday, he one by one went down the line and called out members of Congress. And then we saw yesterday afterward, they would tweet out on social media the clip of the moment where he said a nice thing about them. I thought there's the whole ball game yesterday right there in the White House.
Yeah, yesterday
Shallow.
Donald Trump was at his worst, but think about this. I mean, it is assuring, it is calming that he is so predictable. What did he do the day after Robert Mueller's testimony? He picked up the phone.
Yep.
He called Ukraine, invaded by Russia, said, I'm holding up your weapons until you dig up dirt on my political opponent. That was the next day. Donald Trump was at his worst when he actually should have been at his best, when he should have been at his, most humane. He should have played the advantage. This man doesn't know how to make a deal, and politically, he just doesn't know how to play an advantage. Yesterday would have been a wonderful time for him, if he cared about ever getting to 50%, to do what Bill Clinton did, a man who left office actually, I think, in the 60s. But instead, Rick Wilson said, instead, Donald Trump yesterday, he bellowed like a third world warlord in a display of political performance art that was almost unbearably grotesque in its affront to American values, American law, and America's collective sanity. And as Willie said, Mika,
Yeah.
the most grotesque part was not Donald Trump. We've already priced that into the stock.
Yeah, it's baked into the cake.
The grotesque part were those people jammed in there, and the people jammed into the prayer breakfast who were laughing along to this aberrant behavior. This behavior that cut against not only constitutional norms over the past several months and political norms, but more importantly, cultural norms that Donald Trump shatters every day. And I will say, as someone who grew up in the evangelical church, cut against basic norms that evangelicals once claimed to believe, once held themselves
Lived
to,
by.
once talked about inside the church and inside prayer breakfasts. Even though they are all sinners, at least they ascribe to follow the words of Jesus Christ the best they could do. Yesterday, a president of the United States was openly mocking the words of Jesus Christ. And neither Franklin Graham nor Jerry Falwell Jr. or Robert Jeffries or any of these other religious leaders, put in quotes, did anything to actually tell their flock, wait a second, no, don't listen to the president. Listen to the words of Jesus Christ. So we'll talk about all of this a lot.